How did Latin rhythms subtly influence early rock and roll? Imagine a musical world where different rhythms from around the globe blend seamlessly to create something new and exciting. That's exactly what happened with early rock and roll. Latin rhythms played a quiet but important role in shaping the genre's unique sound. These rhythms, coming from Afro-Latin music traditions, introduced fresh patterns and percussion sounds that added a new groove to American popular music. During the post-war years, cities like New York and Los Angeles became melting pots of musical styles. Latin American music, especially Cuban and Brazilian styles, became more accessible through radio, records, and live performances. Musicians and producers started to incorporate Latin percussion instruments like congas, bongos, and timbales into their recordings. These instruments brought a lively, danceable feel that was different from the usual blues or swing beats. Afro-Latin rhythms such as the clave pattern and straight quaver polyrhythms became part of the musical vocabulary. These patterns created syncopation and rhythmic complexity that made early rock and roll more dynamic and engaging. For example, the Cuban rumba blues, popularized by bandleaders like Perez Prado, used Latin rhythmic motifs in songs like Mardi Gras Mambo and Giacomo. These songs combined Latin percussion with American blues, creating a new hybrid sound. Brazilian rhythms like baião also found their way into American music. The Drifters' hit, There Goes My Baby, features a subtle influence of Latin patterns, showing how these sounds crossed cultural borders. Latin American musicians living in the United States contributed further to this fusion, especially in cities like New York. Artists like Richie Valens brought Latin melodies and rhythms into rock and roll with hits like La Bamba, which is a traditional Mexican folk song turned into a lively rock tune. This cross-genre collaboration didn't stop at just instruments or melodies. Latin music's complex rhythms, based on African heritage, inspired early rock and roll artists and producers to experiment with syncopation and layered percussion. Reggae music, which also grew from African and Caribbean roots, shares this rhythmic complexity. Both genres show how African-descended musical traditions helped shape the pulse of popular music worldwide. Understanding these Latin influences helps us see how diverse rhythms contributed to the early development of rock and roll. Musicians and producers who embraced Latin percussion and patterns created a richer, more danceable sound that appealed to a broader audience. This blending of styles also paved the way for Latin rock and other genres that continue to fuse Latin rhythms with modern music today. In the end, Latin rhythms subtly influenced early rock and roll by adding new layers of rhythm and percussion that made the genre more vibrant and inclusive. These musical exchanges, driven by migration, media, and Latin artists, created a rhythmic bridge that connected Latin music traditions with the emerging sounds of rock and roll.